MLOVE, I'm Jessi. It's really cool to be here. I'm having a really good time. So I'm going to quickly kind of talk to you about where I work, quickly, a little bit about who I am, and then I'm going to talk more about, rather than talking about what I do, I'm going to talk a bit more about kind of why I do it, I guess. So I work for TBWA, which is a big global kind of advertising agency, and I work for a kind of little niche department of it called Being, doing kind of innovative stuff. So we're kind of, as a big company, we're famous for kind of taking quite boring ideas, kind of screwing around with them, disrupting them, and kind of creating visions. And we're also kind of famous for making people buy into kind of really big ideas, making them feel kind of empathetic towards products, which is actually kind of what I'm going to talk about eventually. So I'm part of their kind of digital arts network, basically, which is like a kind of thread of kind of digital experts that are all over the world. And we kind of focus on these skills, so kind of e-commerce stuff and analytics. I like to think I do a bit of all of them, but I don't really. I actually just do kind of creative technology stuff and user experience design. And I guess I'm a kind of full-time future gazer as well, so I spend quite a lot of time thinking about the future of advertising and branding and what that means. So a bit about me. I'm Jessi. I'm a bit of a hybrid. I've got an engineering degree. That's what I studied originally. And I've kind of worked in that for a bit. And then I'm also, last year I graduated from the Royal College of Art. So I did kind of very much more kind of embracing my inner artist. So I kind of try and mash up the two, basically, and quite a few of my projects are like everything from robots to kind of light installations and fountains that are powered by data. So basically I conduct a lot of experiments, is kind of what I say. But I'm not exactly going to talk to you about all of my projects. I'm going to talk to you more about what I do kind of day to day, and that is mostly look at the Internet of Things, and specifically what that means for increased transparency. Now that'll become a bit more clear what I mean by transparency a bit later on. So, and I kind of design an experiment in that arena, basically, to look at kind of the future of branding and communication. So I'm kind of going to talk you through this, which is basically kind of what I'm thinking about at the moment and most of the time. And really this is a cycle that's about choices. So it's about connectivity empowering us to make better choices. So not just for ourselves, but also for the planet, because that's kind of what I actually care about. Is this. This is what kind of gets me out of bed every morning and makes me think, great, technology can do really cool stuff. And I think at the moment, like without understanding kind of the impact of goods and services, we buy into systems that deplete natural resources, worsen environments and social problems, and endanger humans and ecosystems. Whew. So we all do that. We all buy stuff and we consume lots of things and we don't really know kind of actually the impact of what we're doing. We kind of vaguely read about it in the paper, but we don't 100% know the impact of our kind of quantified selves yet, or kind of a world of quantified people, I guess. So I'm going to kind of take you around this kind of brain kind of cycle, and hopefully get you to see that I believe that actually increased connectivity can help us make better choices, basically. So kind of choice is where I'm going to start. So start at the end and then kind of eventually hopefully get back there. So yeah, we make choices every day, right? And specifically in this talk, I'm going to kind of talk about transactions, so like stuff we buy. We kind of choose to buy this or that. You know, we actually make that decision all the time. And every transaction might seem like a kind of throwaway thing, like it doesn't really matter if you buy that washing powder or this washing powder, but actually they kind of aggregate together to mean we actually are making kind of really large group decisions about the kind of world we want to see through our kind of purchasing power, I think. So what do we choose? How do you know what to pick? Like, do you pick the red pill or the blue pill? Like, do you pick something that's seemingly quite sustainable, or do you pick, or you just feel, you know, like, I don't care, I'll just buy into anything, I'll go with delusion. Well, I think the real problem is I don't think we know what the red pill is and what the blue pill is. I think we choose products every day, and we don't know if we're buying into slavery or into environmental degradation, or whether we're actually buying something really cool that's like based on a really great business model that's actually giving back to a society. And we don't really know these things. We kind of do, but like greenwash is getting in the way, and actually like, you know, I don't really know if the t-shirt I'm wearing wasn't actually made by a slave. So I think connectivity can change all this, basically. I think when you start talking about connected objects, so as Yuri has given us an amazing presentation yesterday all about kind of, the 50 billion connected things that are very soon going to be connected to the internet, I think you can start to think about how, we might be able to kind of quantify our decisions a little better. So I kind of talk about the Internet of Things, but lots of people talk about it in a different way. So pervasive computing, kind of calm technology, or sensing planet. I kind of think these things all kind of mean the same thing. They basically mean the Internet weaving their way into our physical world in, using a number of technologies. And they're kind of all, cloud-based things. Everything is mobile, things you can touch and move. And it's quite, I think, potentially inherently very social. Okay, so you've got loads of stuff that's all connected together. So like the physical and the digital kind of blurs pretty hugely, I think. And it becomes pretty difficult to kind of keep track of all these different things that are talking to each other. And actually, you start to realize that if the physical is the digital and the digital is the physical, then what really is digital anymore? Is everything going to become digital? Like, is kind of digital going to feel a little bit like fish to water? I kind of like to think that maybe that's what it's going to be like. Like, what the hell is water? So some like mundane, in this kind of water analogy, I guess that means those really mundane things are going to be connected to the internet. So once I looked at what if your moisturizer became as intelligent as your smartphone, which might seem pretty stupid, and actually, do you really want your moisturizer to be as intelligent as your smartphone? But it's potentially going to happen. So we need to kind of consider these things. And actually, if your moisturizer is as intelligent as your smartphone, then how are you going to manage like all of these different objects, these kind of millions of devices that you've got around your house and your friends' houses? Like they're all going to be talking to each other and making decisions for you, which is a bit worrying, I think. So actually, you're going to start kind of outsourcing your mind a little bit, and you're going to need to, I think we need to start thinking of the Internet of Things as not just stuff connected to the internet, but also we might need to start thinking about a kind of companion that's going to help us run all of this stuff, like a kind of digital demon, like I don't know if you've seen, Philip Pullman's kind of series and talking about kind of companions, like managing, what we're doing. And this really interests me because functionality-wise, you can imagine this happening and it being really cool. Like, be cool if your alarm clock like automatically knew that it had to, wake you up later because your professor was going to be late that morning, and it's like, awesome, cool, I didn't even have to wake up. But actually, this could become bigger things. It could be like moral decisions. Like you could start your assistant might start making moral decisions for you, which raises kind of questions of how you like calibrate that assistant, which is something I hope we can discuss later. So I can't talk about connectivity without talking about data. It's like oil. Data is the new oil. I think we're going to expire loads of it. We already do. And hopefully we're going to start harvesting a lot of it and finding cool stuff out. I'm going to interject here with a project that actually the kind of quote I read at the beginning is a friend of mine, Leo Benani. He did a project at MIT Media Lab called Source Map, and I think it's a really pioneering kind of example of how we can start making ourselves not just a quantified self in terms of knowing how we are and how healthy we are, but also start to know, like, the health check of kind of our stuff and like what we're buying. So what it does, check it out, sourcemap.com. It's basically allows open source mapping of supply chains. So anybody can contribute a point on the map that they think is a production stage in the development of a product. This becomes really, really interesting in the next kind of decade when more and more and more people start, joining to the internet. There's like 2 billion now. It's going to like really, really go crazy. And actually people that are mining the materials that are going to go into your 3D printer can start contributing where they were mined, in what kind of conditions, and actually you can really start quantifying what kind of person you are by what you've got. So this brings me to openness, which SourceMap is an open platform. I'm a big kind of advocate for open stuff. Actually, a couple of weekends ago, I was with a number of people drawing up a Bill of Rights for the open Internet of Things, because I think this is something I'm really, really passionate about. I have a 15-year-old sister, and her only kind of relation to the internet is Facebook. She thinks Facebook kind of is the internet. And she doesn't even have an email address, which I'm kind of like, wow, that's amazing. So that we only communicate via Facebook and Pinterest, and that's it. So she thinks that's the internet. So this is okay, because you can walk away from Facebook, and my whole life doesn't revolve around it, so that's okay. But what if Facebook was actually like an Internet of Things Facebook? So like all the stuff you had was linked to Facebook. This kind of terrifies me, and I think walled gardens and kind of monopolies and situations where like all of our stuff is kind of managed by one big entity that's taking all our data terrifies me. So basically, I spend quite a lot of time working on this stuff, which tries to break down these walled gardens and work out what should be the rights for personal data and how much we should know about what's being found out about us. This is all open and it's a wiki, so get involved. Ask me if you want to be part of it. And you guys can all contribute to this, even if you're not particularly Internet of Things person. We're taking loads of kind of learnings from basically the open source community, so which you guys know lots about. Okay, so this is a project I did a couple of years ago, which is called Open Object, and it was a series of experiments I did that basically looked at data shadows of objects that aren't yet connected to the internet. So a pair of jeans, just a standard pair of like Levi 501s, if you Google them, you basically come up with all this like brand stuff, you get the adverts and everything like that, and that's probably like the majority of the perception you have with this product maybe when you initially look for it. And then also like maybe your friends wear it, or you've tried to find the cheapest price for them online. But actually, like if you Google like a boring product with like loads of other keywords like environmental or labor or loads of different celebrities, you end up with like this huge kind of data shadow of info about this one pair of jeans, which actually I wouldn't have got to initially. And maybe the advertising or the kind of celebrity factor wasn't actually the thing that was most interesting to me. So I did a project that basically allowed people to kind of curate their interests when they're at home, like with their kids or doing whatever they want, and think about kind of their morals and stuff that's important to them via an interface. And then I created a kind of connected shop, basically, that when you approached it, your phone connected with the kind of intelligent environment, and it basically scraped data about this product that was really relevant to your kind of personal kind of feelings and opinions about exactly the kind of metrics you want to use when you're buying something. So it kind of scrapes, for my sister, it just scraped loads of like celebrity crap, like YouTube hauls and like, all of that. But then, for my mum, it actually scrapes kind of environmental data and carbon footprint, and actually this shop becomes like very much like reflecting your true values. And it was really interesting to see like how people selected products, and all the products were basically the same. It was like 3 white t-shirts, 3 moisturizers, whatever. Okay, cool. So this leads me to talk about transparency. Basically, this is a kind of underlying issue that I research all the time and experiment in. And it's the kind of transparency to me is like taking open data and then making it kind of accessible. So you can actually understand it and act on it and do something with that data rather than just kind of, passively go through the world. So I do a lot of kind of user experience stuff, and this is actually a wireframe of using data visualization as an interface. It's kind of a bit of an abstract idea, I guess, because I can't really talk about the whole project, but it's kind of interesting because actually the interface of the thing you're interacting with just totally changes depending on data that's being gathered by the thing. So you get this kind of cycle where actually you're interacting with something that's constantly evolving depending on how you're interacting with it. It's a really fun thing to design, basically. It's been kind of really cool to think about like how things can calibrate themselves based on how you use them. And it's kind of something I want to talk more about. So this can also take, kind of simple forms. I mean, Yuri already showed this yesterday. It's a really cool project, and it really kind of brings transparency to kind of life for me. It's like taking, something on the internet that you wouldn't usually see when you're shopping unless you were really going to go through Facebook in a serious way while you're in a store, which I can't imagine you would, and just brings it right there and actually kind of influences your decision, basically. You think, oh, loads of people like this, so I want that. But I think transparency can be more than this. It can be more than Facebook likes. It can be conveying true stories, basically. It can be trying to get people to think about the truth behind products, not in terms of just like if your friends like them, but also kind of like the bigger picture of products, which I guess is why I showed you the data shadow of a pair of jeans before, because there's a lot more stuff that you could put on that coat hanger, not just Facebook likes. And how do we start to kind of put the right thing on the coat hanger for the right person and help people to try and think about their kind of environmental and moral kind of standpoint when they're shopping too? Sure. I mean, this already happens to a certain extent. Like, on products, you get lots of stamps that say if something's fair trade or whatever, but it's starting to get a kind of plethora of stuff, and actually digital things that can indicate the things you're actually really interested in, this kind of plethora of stamps actually becomes like something you can use in that data shadow and kind of calibrate it for what you're interested in. So yeah, this is the quote I started with at the beginning. And I kind of think transparency is really the key here. So if we don't understand the impact of what we're actually buying, we need to kind of work out how we can actually do that. And I think connectivity and data and openness of data and creating kind of transparent ways in which we can interact with that data and make choices upon it can help this problem, basically. So this brings me kind of to like my final bit, which is, so kind of tying it back into the whole kind of communication thing, because advertising is very good at making you empathize with fictitious situations, basically. They create stories that make you want to buy into something, which is really powerful. And I think it's amazing, actually. Like, we really, really start to kind of empathize with characters in adverts or in films that are using certain products. And we ultimately buy them, which is kind of amazing. But what's kind of really happening is you're here on the right, a consumer, and you've got all of this stuff happening in the system on the left, and advertising is just putting this big kind of smoke screen in the middle of the two and making up a whole story that kind of means you totally separate these two things, the real working of the company and your kind of belief in the product. And actually, I think there's a real opportunity to kind of break down this smoke screen, kind of close this structural hole, as you will, and kind of start telling true stories, basically. Which is not a new thing. Like, people have been doing it for a long time. Like, newspapers try and tell true stories about products. I mean, Upton Sinclair wrote this book that basically influenced the whole of labor rights. It was about the meatpacking district in Chicago and how awful it was, and it influenced the labor right law in the States in like the early 1900s. So it's not a new thing, but I think digital stuff is really going to make it a whole lot easier. So just one last project, which I think really sums up nicely like how empathy can really influence our decision. This is by Usman Haque, who's a really great designer. It's called Natural Fuse, and basically it's a switch, and it allows you to choose between selfless and selfish. So that's the only things on this, or off, obviously. So you can be selfish or selfless. And what it is, it's a light that connects to a plant. And it's a network of lights that are connected to plants. So basically, the whole system is totally carbon neutral if you choose selfless, obviously. So if you choose selfless, it's completely carbon neutral. So, you know, the CO2 being absorbed by the plant is offsetting the CO2 created by the lamp. Which is great. So if everyone in the society chooses selfless, great. We have this amazing, like, sustainable ecosystem. But if you like really need some light, or you're just a bit mean, you can choose selfish. And then what happens is one of the plants randomly gets squirted with vinegar and dies. So actually, you're just this awful person that's just like killing the planet. But it's amazing because it's like an empathetic light switch. It's like, it's not on or off, but it's, do I actually want to, be an asshole, or do I actually want to be cool and like really, help the system? But I think we should design more stuff like this. I really think we can start bringing empathy into our daily choices, like our daily switches, like everything we do with technology. Cool, so that's been my kind of crazy brain. I've got a minute, I think. That's my kind of crazy brain space. And this is really just a kind of flavor of stuff I'm interested in, I guess. And I really hope we can discuss stuff and people can challenge me and say, no, that's rubbish, later on at the Future Cube. But I'll quickly kind of wrap up a few kind of key bits that I want to discuss later. One is outsourced decision-making, not just functional, so not just I'm late for school, but moral, like how are we going to calibrate our morals on our, with our kind of digital companions. Join the open Internet of Things debate. Like, even if you aren't really into that kind of thing, I think it's going to affect our lives. We are all going to buy connected products at some point. I mean, we probably all got quite a few already. So help shape it. Talk to me. I'd love to talk about it. Design for openness for multiple stakeholders. 2 billion more people about to join the internet. We need to think about what they do, like what their occupations are, how they interact with us, and kind of design for the whole system, really. Interfaces that learn. This is something I just absolutely love, basically. It's really fun, kind of wireframing for kind of unknowns. So yeah, that's something else I'd really like to talk about. And kind of leading on from that is personal curation of information and data. So like cutting the crap that you don't care about, like so you don't have to see all the celebrity stuff and you can just see the stuff you're really interested in. Like, how do we do that? Do we do that through interfaces or what? And also like helping that reflect our moral understanding, so our real kind of moral and personal beliefs. Like we don't all want to kill all the plants with vinegar, really. So big opportunity for communications, I think, is in true stories and facilitating empathetic connections, basically, using that learning from big advertising to basically help us make decisions that actually kind of really reflect who we are and we empathize with real people, not just fictitious scenarios. And that, I hope, will facilitate better choices and actually help us make better choices, I hope. So there you go, that's my crazy, crazy presentation.